What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Up. Today we're going to be going over some NFL trade ideas, some news, UFC preview for Fight Night, and some MLB. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So first off, let's go over some NFL news. One of the biggest headlines of the week, obviously Tyreek Hill released from the Miami Dolphins, as well as Bradley Chubb. And then you've got some huge questions at quarterback with Tua. So let's start off at the top. What are your thoughts on Tyreek Hill being gone?
It was the most logical thing for the Dolphins to do. Tyreek's 31, coming off a major injury, and they're saving 15 million by cutting him now and releasing him. So, yeah, it sucks. It's something that gets everybody's attention, but it's something that had to be done, especially for the Dolphins and the new regime coming into Miami. So, it'll be interesting to see what his market is. There's going to be a lot of teams that want him, and he is going to be very pricey just considering the fact that his name is Tyreek Hill and what he has been able to do. But the last year or two, he hasn't been as productive, and then he got injured middle of the season last year. So you're not quite sure exactly which Tyreek you're going to get because he is that old. And you're hoping if you're spending big money on him that you get the Tyreek Hill from his first couple years in Miami and then all those years in Kansas City. So I think a lot of his performance issues the past couple years you can blame on quarterback play just because of who his quarterback was. So he didn't get many opportunities, and you can see the frustration. And then quite literally when he was getting carted off the field, when he did get injured, it looked like he was just so happy and he was cheering that he got hurt and that his season was over. So he wanted to be out of there. He's out of there now. So it'll be interesting to see what his market brings.
Yeah, man. I agree. They didn't really have much choice there with what they were looking at. They've got the new regime coming in, like you said. Most likely going to have a new quarterback going into the next season. You're dropping Chubb. It just looks like a complete rebuild. So there's really no reason to keep that expensive, pricey wide receiver out there on the outside, especially with some of the behavioral issues, whatever you want to call it. And then on top of that, coming back from a major injury, like you said, you just never know what you're going to get out of it. So you don't know you're going to get your return on your money. You got to cut ties. So that's pretty much what was expected. Now, the really big question is Tua Tagovailoa. It's looking like 99 million in dead money if he's released. I think they save about 30 something million on the against the cap. So it's going to be really tough. That's a lot of dead money to eat. So that's going to be some really hard conversations up there in Miami, along with everything else they've been working on. So it's going to be really excited to see what they do moving forward. Where do you think they're going to go with this?
Feels like Tua will not be a Dolphin next year. And that's crazy because his cap hit, the dead weight cap, the money that he's going to be owed is $99 million, you said. That's a third of what teams are giving. This year, teams are given a little over $300 million to work with. So when a third of your money you're going to spend is going to be used up on a guy that won't even be there, that's tough. That's going to set you back a few years, I would think. If this new regime is locked in on a full rebuild, then might as well rip the Band-Aid off now so you can be ready in 2 years or 3 years. Now I'm thinking, okay, Tyreek's gone. What will his market look like? There was an interesting thing I saw on ESPN the other day where him going back to Kansas City is a real possibility. And that's kind of scary because you're thinking, okay, the Chiefs are going to do some things in this offseason. They're going to draft well. They make smart decisions in the free agency, and they could completely rebuild and be ready next year. And we got 5 more years of Chiefs dominance. So I'm hoping he doesn't go to the Chiefs. All the Chiefs fans are really, really, really excited for this. I'm thinking of the other places where he could go. There's not many. Of course, everybody wants a bite of Tyreek Hill, but who are the legitimate teams that could pursue him?
Well, I don't know about salary cap and all of that exactly for each team, but just top of my head, a team that could really use another piece on the outside who's got a pretty good defense that's really needing something to tip the scales on the offensive side. The team that comes to mind for me is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know it's hard to even picture Tyreek Hill in a Steelers jersey, but Man, depending who they bring back next year, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or anyone, they're going to love having a threat like Tyreek Hill on the outside. So, that being said, he's going to be 32 years old going into next season, coming off a major ACL injury. That's going to have some implications for the teams trying to make this decision. You have Patrick Mahomes at the Chiefs, just going off of what you said earlier. He's coming back from an ACL. Is he playing the full season? Are they going to let him rest? Kind of take a step back this season, recharge, get their books in order, and then be ready for the 2027 season? I think those are some big answers that need to be talked about before you can go into making that move for a Tyreek Hill, because that's a big decision to make. If are you going for it next year or not? And with Mahomes coming back from an injury like that, I've got to be leaning towards not. But regardless, you get a healthy Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes together playing again, that would be complete cinema to watch.
Definitely. And painful.
Right. Okay, let's go into the next one. There's been a lot of talk. It's not official yet, but it's definitely looking like Kenneth Walker. He is not going to be back with Seattle next season. The Super Bowl MVP from this past season. He's going to be a very valued target going into this next offseason. I'm going to go ahead and take it. He's got to go to Dallas. He's got to go there. 3 first-round O linemen he's going to be running behind. You've got CeeDee Lamb on the outside, Dak Prescott under center, Kenneth Walker in the backfield. These guys would be unstoppable. Now, you're still going to have the worst defense in NFL history, but you'd see some very exciting offense while fighting for playoff contention. So that would be, for me, his number one stop. Obviously, when you're going to the Dallas Cowboys, your contract and incentives aren't the only thing that you're going to get going there. You're going to get a lot of notoriety, a lot of sponsorship, a lot of stuff that comes behind playing for the most valuable sports franchise in the world. So it would be very nice to see Kenneth Walker in a Cowboys jersey. What are your thoughts?
Imagine an offense with Dak Prescott, Kenneth Walker, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. Oh my gosh, who is stopping that? Maybe the Seahawks, maybe the Texans, every other team in the league. Good luck, because you're not stopping that horse. Man, that would be scary. But I'm going to say Kenneth Walker. I would love to see him with the other Texas team, Texans. We have to put a stop to this revolving door for years with the Texans and their running backs. So go ahead and get a guy like Kenneth Walker or even Breece Hall. We can talk about that later. Get a guy that is going to do wonders for your offense and take some pressure off your quarterback, and sign him to a 3, 4, 5-year deal. 5-year is pushing it, but that shows commitment. I would do a 5-year deal with a lot of back of the year contract situations where you can kind of get out of that if you need to. But yeah, Kenneth Walker being not even franchise tagged. And we were just hyping the man up so much the past 2 weeks, and raving about him and talking about how he really did a good thing for the running back market and showing off for running backs. And then just to see the Seahawks totally disregard that and saying, hey, you won us the Super Bowl, but we don't value that much. We're not even going to franchise tag you. We've got other players that we want to keep around. That's crazy. So it will be interesting to see where he goes, but either the Cowboys or the Texans, I'm all for it.
Yeah, both of those I think we can agree are both options. Next one I wanted to go over was a pretty interesting one. David Njoku, he's saying his goodbye to Cleveland and the Cleveland fan base. He is most likely not going to be returning. What are your thoughts on a team we could potentially see him going to?
Trying to think of the last time when I didn't see Njoku in a Browns uniform. It's been years. A fan favorite there. They love Njoku. He's a big body tight end, soft hands, can really do damage on a defense. Catching the ball in receiving game and also blocking because he's just so big. So I don't know where he would go. I know we were talking about it earlier. I'm trying to think of another team that would need a tight end. And of course, the Texans need a tight end. We always need a tight end. I don't think that would happen. Maybe the Falcons. I don't know what they're going to do with Kyle Pitts. they more than likely will franchise tag him. But then again, they might just be ready to wash their hands clean of him and the Kyle Pitts project and move on somewhere else. And with a new head coach and Kevin Stefanski, you got a new regime coming in. You're not sure who your quarterback's going to be. Just go ahead and go get an Njoku and see what he can do in that offense. You already got Bijan Robinson. You got Drake London. You got a solid offensive line, so it would be interesting to see what could happen in that type of offense for him. What do you think? Where do you think he's going?
Yeah, definitely the talk around the rumor mill is that Kyle Pitts is not going to be returning to Atlanta, so he's most likely going to be a free agent on the market. I agree. It'd be pretty interesting to see Njoku out there with Stefanski, have a little extra juice behind him going into that new job. My thought was to the Chiefs. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but Pat Mahomes coming off a ACL injury. Travis Kelce, he's 37 years old. He's seen a little bit of dip in production at this point. You get a really athletic, capable tight end in David Njoku. So looking at 2026, I would definitely say that would be a very interesting sight to see, and I think he'd be very productive getting passes from Mahomes. So that would be somewhere I'd really like to see him go.
Imagine what Andy Reid could do with David Njoku.
Right. All right. Why don't you give us some more for NFL? What else you got for us?
I got Trey Hendrickson. What in the world will the Bengals do? Are they going to franchise tag him again? He hated being in Cincinnati this past year. Well, really the past several years since I can remember. But he absolutely hated being in Cincinnati and being around that organization last year. And he was wanting to sit out. He didn't go to training camp. He didn't do any of that stuff. And it just seems like the relationship between Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals is unrepairable. And for me, I think the best option would be trade him or let him go. Let him walk and see where he can go. And hopefully he doesn't go in the same division. But if the Bengals franchise tag him, he will not play for them. Just based off of what I've seen from last year, it just feels like he's done with Cincinnati, and that man does not want to be there.
Yeah, it definitely got ugly towards the end of the season last year and throughout the offseason before he got the tag. I was completely surprised that he even accepted the franchise tag last year. So I very much doubt that he's going to be going for it this year. When you're looking at Cincinnati, what they've got going, they had one of the worst defenses in the league. A top NFL paid edge player is not going to change that. They need multiple pieces on that defense. So when you're looking at the outlook for them to get into real serious contention, they've got to cut ties with Hendrickson. They've got to save that money and spread it out among the defense. Additionally, I think they need to go ahead and trade T. Higgins. I know he signed the contract, but you can get some really valuable draft picks, really great collateral for trading him out of Cincinnati. A really interesting suitor would be Baltimore. Imagine you've got Lamar Jackson, T. Higgins on the outside. I know they'd be excited with that. And then Cincinnati, you still got Jamar Chase, you've got Burrow, and then you just really need something on the opposite side of the ball. They need to be able to go somewhere on defense. They need to have something reliable there. Joe Burrow is going to keep you in games. If you even keep it close, he's going to be able to put you over the top. But at this point, this guy can't even get an opportunity to do that. So you need a defense to be able to put down a serious Super Bowl contention run like we've seen them do before. And yeah, I'm thinking they've got to go ahead and move on from Hendrickson, move on from Higgins. To me, they are unnecessary expenses, and they really just got to bolster up that defense.
That's a great point. Thinking about it, they could franchise tag him, and that would force, with the intentions to trade him, and that would force anybody that is interested in him. That's up to whatever the Bengals would want. They could say, "Oh, okay, franchise tagging him, and then we want a first rounder for him, or two second rounders, or something like that on top of a new contract." So that could be something that the Bengals do. Like you were saying, to add to that value, getting rid of T. Higgins, they could do something similar like that. And they could get a lot of draft capital in this draft class and next year's draft class just from those two players. And that could really change around that defense and make them a Super Bowl contender again. So That's a very intriguing prospect for sure. I just now realized that.
Yeah. What else you got for us on NFL?
I got Mac Jones, I got Kyler Murray, but let's start with Mac Jones. Mac Jones, I do not think will be a 49er next year. I just think the way he played carrying the rock while Brock Purdy was out, he's a starter, man. He proved that in the right system, he's a starter in the NFL. And he's going to have a fairly big market, I would assume. You got teams that need QBs. You got the Jets. You have some other teams as well. Hell, the Cardinals, they need a QB. Their future's not with Kyler Murray. And you're thinking about the QB needy teams. Mac Jones, he's not going to be super expensive. He'll be on the lower end of the quarterback price range, and he's going to give you good value at the same time with the way that he plays. So I would like to see Mac Jones go to another contending team. I'm thinking, this is just off the top of my head, CJ has been on the trade block. There's been rumors about CJ Stroud being traded per Todd McShay. And usually when Todd McShay or Mel Kiper comes up with things like this, they got some weight to them. There's some momentum behind what they're saying. Something's building up. I've said it. I want CJ out of Houston. I would absolutely love seeing a trade with the 49ers potentially. And it's not a player for player trade. I'm thinking trading CJ for Mac Jones, and then maybe we also get Jawan Jennings or Fred Warner, somebody on that defensive side, because we could use another solid linebacker on that defense for Houston. So that's just one example. Mac Jones, he could have a wide open market. And then Kyler Murray, that's another trade option for the Cardinals. CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray. Where's Kyler Murray going? I don't think he's going to stay in Arizona. So he could go to the Jets. He could come to Houston. Again, I don't think that is a player for player trade with CJ. Although I've been dogging CJ like crazy, trading him for Kyler Murray straight up just seems like it's not enough. This is crazy, but I could see Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, or Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. for CJ Stroud and maybe like a fifth or fourth rounder. And that would drastically change these two organizations. Man, I'm just thinking of all the possibilities. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is. Just off the top of my head, no way the Cardinals are letting McBride or Harrison go. Even if you have Kyler Murray leaving, that's their future right there, man. So, just off the top of my head, I think you're right. You cannot do Kyler Murray for CJ straight up. I think you're gonna have to put maybe some draft capital behind it, but I just don't see the Cardinals letting up on those two key players in their future. What I do think is really interesting though is sounds like you'd be pretty happy seeing the change with CJ Stroud moving out and Kyler Murray moving in. You think that'd be a good decision for the Texans to make, and he'd be able to give y'all a real shot to go further than what CJ Stroud did this year?
Probably not, but a man can hope. I do think there's QBs that they need is a change of scenery. And it feels like Kyler Murray needs a change of scenery. CJ Stroud, man, Houston, we've been behind them, but we're not closed off to the opportunity of going to get somebody else that is a proven starter in this league. I think a change of scenery would be good for both of them. Is it a smart move? Can you make a better move, a better decision if you're Nick Caserio in the Houston Texans front office? Yes, you can. It's just a matter of seeing what your cards are, being able and being willing to play those cards, have some patience, and when a deal comes in, strike it. It'll be interesting to see how all that plays out too.
Yeah. I asked that question just because I agree with you. I think it'd be really great to see just a change of scenery for both quarterbacks. I think that can prime them for a really great comeback for both of those guys. We've seen it. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold go over these guys pretty much every week this last season. So both of these guys are capable. The talent's out of this world. We know for a fact whenever Kyler Murray is playing in Texas, he plays lights out. So for him to play most of his games in Houston would be awesome. I know he'd love being closer to home. Yeah, it'd be exciting to see. Like I said, you can't do that trade straight up, but that would be really awesome to see. Kyler for the Texans, CJ Stroud for the Cardinals. Yeah.
Yes. And then here's another one. Brees Hall and a first rounder from the Jets. Because the Jets, they've got so many first and second round picks for this year and next year, it's not even funny. It's crazy. So they could part ways with the first rounder this year, send us Brees Hall, and we give him CJ Stroud. And I think that would be another crazy trade. And
I think that
will
is
that do
beautiful.
good? I
It's a
mean,
great trade
that
for
would be a
both
great
teams.
trade.
Yeah.
And then maybe we go get as a Texans, for the Texans, go and get a Mac Jones or hell, even a Malik Willis from the Green Bay Packers. You know, he
Yeah.
showed that with the right organization, he can start really well and be a good starter in the league too.
Yeah, one thing I'm thinking about this offseason is you got a lot of, it seems like, starter capable quarterbacks available this offseason or can be made available. You've got Kirk Cousins, you've got Justin Fields, you've got, like you said, Malik Willis is a possibility. And these guys are just kind of floating in the air. You've got Mac Jones. Like, these are some really viable prospects, guys that have shown a lot of promise. So, if for teams like you're saying, trying to do something like that, if the Texans were to do something like that and not have a real guarantee on the quarterback side, you have options out there. So I know you might not like it, but Kirk Cousins, I mean, when he is on, like we've seen in Minnesota, he is on. So if he's got any juice left, that's a real stable, capable quarterback that could really stabilize the franchise. I know he's not maybe long term, but at least for the foreseeable future, for the next 2 to 3 years, if he can just be a system quarterback, drive a bus for someone even like the Jets, if they were just needing someone capable, that would be someone I'd definitely be looking into.
Yeah. This NFL free agency season, there's a lot of good players that will be available. And
Yeah.
the market is saturated from just about every position. It's going to be fireworks when March comes around and we start getting all these notifications from Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport about all these trades going down. So I'm super excited.
Definitely, man. Same here. All right, let's preview the UFC Fight Night coming up this weekend. We've got Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez. This one's definitely going to have some serious title implications. Sean Strickland coming off of his loss in the rematch to Dricus Du Plessis. Anthony Hernandez still trying to get his first crack at the title. This guy is on fire. He is steamrolling the competition up to this point. So it's going to be very interesting looking as Strickland's getting more up in age. He's got a little bit more mileage on the tires. He's got this really young, hungry, dominant prospect nipping at his heels. So that's going to be a really exciting one. What are your opinions on that one?
I really wish we could have went, but ticket prices for these UFC events are insane, man. My initial thoughts, I was reading a report earlier today, and it went along the lines of if both of these fighters fight the way that they want to, it's going to be a snooze fest. And I kind of agree with that. Strickland, he's more of a striker, and then Fluffy, he's more quick. He's going to do his damage. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I like both of these fighters. I like Strickland just because he's kind of like a fan favorite with his personality. And then you have Fluffy coming in. He's a younger guy, up and coming, like you said, and he's got a lot of fire in him, and I like that about him. So I don't know who to pick. I'm just going to enjoy the fight, man.
Yeah, I don't think we were making picks, but if I'm making one, I'm definitely rolling with Anthony Hernandez. Seeing what Dricus did to Strickland, able to move him around, I'm thinking Anthony Hernandez is going to get a couple takedowns, grind on him, and just be pretty dominant, man. I think he's primed. I think this is a perfect matchup for Anthony Hernandez if he's fighting at his best capability. I definitely don't see it going any other way. Like you said, Strickland's going to want to stay on the outside, kind of pick him apart with jabs, kicks, and all the works. But Anthony Hernandez, from what we've seen in his previous fights, he is not ready to hear any of that. He's going to keep marching forward. And if he has to take a couple shots to land that takedown, he is going to do that. So I'm definitely rolling with Fluffy going into this one. Next match, we've got Jeff Neal versus Euros Medic. Jeff Neal 16-7, Euros 12-3. It's going to be probably the most exciting fight on the card. I would definitely say it's a toss up between that one and the Dan Ige fight. But Jeff Neal, you like to see him get on the right track. He used to be one of my favorites when he was in his prime. He's not too old now. It's looking like he can kind of turn this ship around and get back onto his winning ways, but it's kind of tough. There's been some out of the octagon issues in his career. You never know exactly what version of Jeff Neal you're going to get since he's had some of those issues. So I'm rooting for the guy going into this one, but Uros Medic, like we said, 12-3. He's a hungry prospect. He's got all the talent in the world, so it's really going to be a close fight in my opinion. But if it gets into a dogfight, I'm definitely leaning towards Euros in this one. Any questions on that?
Is it hard to continue to support a fighter that's always having problems outside of the octagon?
Okay. I'm going to take it as a general statement because I don't want Jeff Neal to show up at my door and act like we're talking about him. He had one, like a couple, like, I think he had a DUI a week before the fight. So it was like, bro, why are you drinking alcohol a week before the fight? You're supposed to be in a camp, and bro was like drunk and everything. So that was kind of tough to justify. He obviously lost that fight coming off of that. So it's tough. I don't have anything invested in it. I'm not putting money on him, obviously. So it's just like any other fandom, right? You want them to win, but obviously you have absolutely no control or input on if they do or not. So it's just a wait and see kind of thing. Obviously, knowing what he's capable of, man, all the talent he had, he could be challenging for a world title. But obviously, things don't work out this way. You could do that with almost any fighter at this in the sport at this point. So yeah.
How does Dana White go about choosing which fighters he wants to give second chances and whatnot?
Well, something recently came out that Dana doesn't do a lot of the matchups. That a lot of that is done by Hunter Campbell. He's the matchmaker officially in the UFC. But as far as like if we're talking about Arman Sarukian and stuff like that, it's just really petty. He runs it like it's his household. Really, there is no standard format. If he likes you, he likes you. If you're Conor McGregor, you're gonna be able to do what you want. If you're a fan favorite, if you take every fight that's given to you, if you don't try to negotiate too hard for the fight contracts and all that crazy stuff, it's super petty over there at the UFC. So it is not ran like any other professional sports organization. These fighters, most of them are getting paid bottom of the barrel money. They're still entry level at 15-15. So yeah, it's just however he's feeling that day, it feels like, and whoever he likes at the time. So if he likes you, he likes you. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And there is a term for this. I think we've talked about on this podcast, and it is the Dana White privilege. So some fighters have the Dana White privilege, some fighters don't. So yeah, it's pretty much how it goes.
That's that's crazy that the UFC is gaining more revenue and just signed a over a $7 billion deal with Paramount based off of those facts. That's
Yeah.
surely the fighters will eventually, sooner rather than later, get more money and get paid better. I'm hoping that is something that is changed because that just seems messed up, man.
Yeah, it doesn't just seem messed up. It is messed up. They don't cover these fighters' medical bills or anything like that. So you got to think you're paying your manager 10%. You got to pay a couple coaches. You got to pay for your travel. You got to pay for your nutrition through the fight camp. And then on top of that, you're paying for your medical bills once you get out of the fight. So unless you're, that top 25% in the UFC, you're not making bukus of money. So it's definitely tough. I'm pretty sure there's some law about monopolies, something like that in the US. Obviously, that's not enforced. You see the UFC, NFL, talking sports teams. If we're talking other things, you can get into BlackRock and all this other crazy monopolies, an example of such. But these monopolies aren't going anywhere. So, what it's really going to take is these fighters to, for lack of a better term, unionize, take a stand, get together, and actually be like, okay, we need to make this much because it's not worth it at this point. So until that happens, pretty much nothing's going to change.
There's not, I know in the NFL, NBA, MLB, they have players' associations, so they don't have anything like that for the UFC. That's crazy.
No, you have nobody fighting for the interest of the fighters besides the individual managers who are negotiating the contracts. And the individual managers have a very, very high. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I'm sorry. They have a very high incentive to play in the UFC's favor because they have multiple fighters that they're trying to get good fights, trying to get championship matchups. So, how hard can you really go in and fight for a fighter when you have all these other contracts and fighters on the line? So, you're not going to go and piss off the UFC brass and ask for more money and be a dick and demand what your fighter deserves if you have 15 other fighters that you're trying to get the UFC Hunter Campbell to make favorable decisions upon. As far as matchups, they can give fighters easier matchups, or they can leave fighters on ice and not give them any matchups and pretty much waste their prime. So the UFC has all the leverage, the fighters have zero, and that's pretty much how it works over here in the UFC. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, just like what Dana says, if you're hungry enough and if you're good enough, you're going to make it to the top and you're going to get everything that you ever worked for. Unfortunately, what that means for the bottom 50% is that it's a hobby. It's not a career. It's an opportunity. And that's what it is.
So unfortunately, that is a prime analogy for the world. Dog eat dog.
Yep. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this preview up. Next fight, match number 3, we got Dan Ige versus Costa. Dan Ige, he's a vet. He's a really exciting fighter. You definitely, or I am leaning towards him coming out of this fight. So that's what we're thinking there. Not really any big implications there, but it should be a really exciting and active fight. So look forward to watching that one. These fights are going to be taking place February 21st. So y'all tune in and then follow up with us the following week and get our breakdowns of them.
We'll not forget to watch it this time.
Sounds good. Now let's get into MLB. Where do you want to start off?
We don't have to get too crazy into it. I do want to talk about the Rangers a little bit and have some expectations for them. But yeah, the MLB season is approaching very quickly. We're a little over a month out from opening day. Opening day is March 25th. Don't really care who's playing then because it's not the Rangers. So Rangers opening day is April 3rd, I think, against the Reds. So I have some expectations for the Rangers this year, and it is to not shit the bed offensively. We wasted a really good pitching group last year who were the best in the league in several categories. So hopefully we can improve our offense, stay consistent. My main guy, I was looking on MLB Network earlier, and the MLB Network says they had this segment of one player per team that has the most to prove, and they went with Kumar Rocker with the Texas Rangers. He had the most to prove to them in the Texas Rangers organization. And yeah, I get that. It makes sense. But there's another guy that I'm thinking of that has a lot more to prove, and his name is Jock Peterson. This guy last year signed a 2-year deal with us for, I think, a little over $37 million. This year, he's going to be making $18.5 million. And he played like crap, complete shite, all year last year. So I just think $18.5 million is a lot for a player whose batting average was 181 last year, and he only had 9 home runs last year. So I'm expecting a lot more production from him because he's known for his power. And he had a whiff rate of 25.2% last year, which is towards the bottom of the barrel in that category. So my expectations this year is for not only Jock Peterson to be more consistent and get some hits consistently every game about. I'm being over optimistic because last year was just horrendous with him. You have Jake Berger, our first baseman. His stats, his first year with us last year is kind of similar to Jock Peterson's. He didn't produce too much for us offensively, but his defense was outstanding. You get a guy that you pay some good money for. You want him to be consistent and help the team in every aspect. If he's doing really well defensively, you want him to also bat consistently. And we just didn't get that from him last year. So having Jake Berger, Jock Peterson being more consistent, and then that kind of goes with the rest of our roster. Our offense was historically bad last year. So seeing guys like Evan Carter, you got Brandon Nemo coming over in the Marcus Semien trade from the Mets. You have Corey Seager. You have Josh Young, Josh Smith. We need those guys to be more consistent offensively. And if we start out slow this year, it's going to be another long year. So my expectations is that Skip Shoemaker really lights a fire under these guys to be hungry and to really learn to grow and be better offensively so we can stay consistent and so we can at least have an average offense to support our outstanding defense and our outstanding pitching rotation. Then we have a really good shot at the pennant this year.
I love it. I'm pretty much in the same boat with you, man. What I had written down for the Rangers' expectation this season, I mean, obviously you said it. We need to be in the running for a pennant. We have a lot of these pieces already put together, a lot of pieces from the championship roster. I had three key names I felt like really needed to take a step up offensively in order for the team as a whole to take the next step going into this season. The three names I have are Josh Young. I know he's had a lot of injuries here and there the past 2 seasons. We need him to be consistent. Wyatt Langford is probably the biggest prospect we have as far as the offensive side. We need him to go into his prime form. There was talks about this guy winning Rookie of the Year at one point, and then just has the really potential to be in the top level of the league as far as home run hitting. So we've got to get him there. And then Evan Carter. I know he got sent down a couple times, had some back injuries and whatnot, but we need him. We need what he was doing during the championship run. And if those three key young players take this next step, the Rangers could be looking very, very good going into this next season.
Yeah, out of those three guys, I think the most important for us would be Evan Carter. He just, man, when he stepped up, he got called up that September when we made that pennant push and we won the World Series. He was the engine to that offense. He sparked what ended up being an amazing playoff offense that took us all the way to the World Series. So since then, he hasn't done anything. He's been hurt with back problems and he hasn't been durable. So for him, the biggest thing is, he's a pretty small guy. He's pretty skinny. So he needs to put some muscle on him and find a way to be durable so we can keep him in the lineup consistently. And if he bats really well, he's got good defense, really good defense. So if he continues to improve and his batting increases, then yes, man, I have so much more hope and faith for this season. But I'm excited. I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of hope already. So it's just hoping to see what we want come to fruition. Because that AL West it's a stacked division this year. You got the Mariners. You have the Mariners. They were a game away from going to the World Series last year. The damn Astros, they're always going to be in contention. I hate to hear it, I hate to see it, but they're always going to be competing and contending. And then you got the Angels and Athletics. What can they do? Athletics have a few good prospects and a few good young players. So who could really light up and catch fire to that team? So the AL West is wide open, and it's a perfect time to have the Texas Rangers back at the top of that division.
I completely agree. Well, that's what we had for MLB. You want to go ahead and wrap us up?
Thank y'all for watching. Y'all go ahead and drop a like, drop a follow. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See y'all.